49er faithful, fans of the Niner Station, welcome back. It's Thomas, Ryan, and Mark. We are here to talk a little bit about a Seahawks preview game that's coming up. Want to mention a few things this week that are pretty big on the Niners' agenda. We did re-sign a corner, Deommodore Lenoir, 5-year extension, $92 million, $18.4 million per year. We also got to see a rookie class performance that really held it down last week. And of course, again, we're going to touch on the Niners against the Seahawks. Always a anxiety-producing matchup, but not as much as it used to be. And this time we're at home. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, fellas. Excited to talk some 49er football with y'all again today. And pretty unexpected news out of the blue right before we jump on to record the podcast is the Hyena getting paid, getting his bag. And that's really exciting news for us moving forward. And I'm looking forward to getting more into it with you guys.
Yeah, what's up, guys? And that was some great news before we're getting on the pod here. And he's quickly become one of my favorite 49ers this year, along with Juwan Jennings. Those are two guys that have really stepped up and kind of stood out this year. Juwan Jennings got paid a little bit in the offseason, but Deommodore Lenoir secured the bag, as they say, got paid like the way he deserves it. And it was actually a really strategic move for the Niners, signing him in midseason, knowing that he's probably going to take a little bit less money because he gets that financial stability if something happens at the end of this year. And I think they save maybe $3 to $5 million a year by signing him early. So great move for the 49ers, a nice little confidence boost going into this game. And I'm excited to see what the Hyena looks like coming off getting paid on Sunday.
So unfortunate, though, it's a little bit of a foreshadowing that Travarius Ward probably won't be back, even though he's going through a lot this year. Probably seeing the signing of your competitive corner on the other side isn't necessarily helpful. And Renardo Green's been playing a great game. Strategic, absolutely. And you're absolutely correct, Mark, about we're probably getting it 1 or 2 million. You also don't want the same thing as a wide receiver market. The cornerback market's going to reset the next time someone gets a big bag, right, in the offseason. And then that forces us to have to pay more than we need to. So if we do it now, we're looking pretty. Now we secured what our 1 and 2 corners are most likely going to be next year. It's going to be Renardo Green and Deommodore Lenoir, unless Travarius Ward decides to come back on a more team-friendly contract. But we'll find out what happens at the end of the season. And you're right. The financial stability, I mean, knock on wood, if he gets injured this year, he knows that he's got guaranteed money coming, and he knows that he has a contract, which is huge, right? And being able to play, I think if anyone deserves an extension on this team, it's him. He can play inside, he can play outside, he can guard anyone. He's confident, he's great in the run game. He's exactly what you want in a corner. I think in my mind, he's probably a top 10 corner, and he can guard any of the receivers in the game, and he's playing with such confidence. Giving him an extension is only going to boost that confidence. So it's huge. This is great. I think that's probably one of the best moves. And I think I texted you guys. I think it's a little bit of a makeup move for our fans. Probably in the media harping on the Niners not making a postseason move, not doing a trade like we should have, only trading for Kalia Davis. But re-signing Lenoir, I think everyone's happy.
You could only be nothing but happy for Deommodore Lenoir because he's come such a long way. And even recently, remember last year when we were probably trying to get ahead and sign him then, but his agent publicly came out and said, nope, they're going to wait on it, not doing any deals at that time. And probably because they had a lot of confidence in Demo and they knew what he was going to do this year. And hey, it paid off. He got his bag, and we should have our cornerback duo of him and rookie Renardo Green locked up for at least another 4 years, which is incredible because the 49ers in the past had our issues at the cornerback position. So to not only have stability now, but for the future, for years to come, it's such an awesome feeling for the 49ers fan base.
Yeah, and he's, like you talked about, he's very versatile in the way he plays corner. He's not just a guy that can line up on the outside. He can move inside and out. Brandon Staley's been playing him at the star position, what he calls, and essentially that's what he did with Jalen Ramsey down in the Rams when they won the Super Bowl. And that is in the nickel package, you go in and play the nickel, and then in the base defense you play outside, because you have that flexibility. And another flexibility it brings is you can put him on a guy like Justin Jefferson and say, follow him around, because he can play from the slot. He can play from outside. So it gives you that flexibility. If you want to, he can travel with the best receiver. And then you have Renardo Green on the other side, who's not a chump. And now you're looking really solid at the cornerback position. And don't forget about the other young guys that we drafted this year and last year in Jair Brown and Mustafa. And we can kind of talk about that. The young guys this year have been making a huge impact. We have some guys from last year's draft, not the quantity of guys, but there are some high quality guys that we picked up in last year's draft that is really starting to build out to be a young core that you need when you're going to pay a guy like Brock Purdy and you have all the high priced guys that they have on the offensive side. This young core is, I think, primed to kind of break out over this second half of the season. And you could see our defense really starting to improve with those guys. And this was where Renardo Green and Mustafa, their breakout game was against Seattle on Thursday night. They each had a pick. They played significantly more minutes because of injuries and things like that. And they stepped up to the belt. So, I'm excited to see the development of this team. And if it continues to play out like this, it could kind of look a lot like the Chiefs defense did a few years ago when Duffy was they still had a young, who's the guy that they let walk away to the Titans? He just went to the Titans this year in a big contract. They didn't re-sign him, the Jerry Sneed. So they were both young. Duffy was a first-year guy. Sneed was only a second or third-year guy. They were both young, but as the season got on and those young guys got experience, their defense got a lot better. So I'm excited to see what these young guys do and continue to do, especially in this kind of pivotal game where if they can win this game, they've kind of solidified themselves back in the top of the NFC West.
One thing that obviously has been great to see is we talked about it. The 49ers need to allow their rookie class to play the game because if we want them to be good at the end of the season, they're going to have to get those mistakes out earlier in the season. Well, we've seen Ricky Pearsall show up and get his first touchdown, right? We have Dominic Pooney starting and playing every game, and he's a top 10 PFF guard in the league. Pearsall getting his touchdown. Cowing's the only one that had a bad game with the muff punt.
I will say he did his punt return, his 30-yard punt return, set the Niners up for the go-ahead score. I believe, I think it was a go-ahead touchdown. He went from being back in the 5-yard line to having the ball on the 35.
Yep, you read my mind. I mean, he made up for it. And yes, a muff punt isn't exactly what we all want to see. It's Kyle Williams. All of us immediately our mind goes straight to that Kyle Williams muff punt. But Cowan came back and he showed that he can handle adversity. And that's what I really want to see out of a rookie class, right? And then, like I said, Pearsall looked great out there. I wish he had more targets, but the offense was firing on all cylinders in a sense, right? We were spreading the ball around. I think we did a little bit better in the first half than the second half, but this shows that Pearsall is at the very least a respectable wide receiver 3, and the investment in the first round draft capital allows us to have control over him for 5 years at a lower rate. Because what if he does break out? What if Ayuk doesn't come back next year and then he breaks out? Where do you have Juwan Jennings breaking out? Juwan Jennings played his first game at X. He looked awesome. I mean, he's usually playing in the slot, but now we bumped him to X, and he can hold his own. I think there was a lot of critiques about him not being fast enough to do it. Doesn't look like it on the field. His game speed is a lot different than his 40 time shows. I think his 40 times a 4.6, but he doesn't look like he runs a 4.6 on the field. He looks like every other receiver that's running a 4.4 or 4.5. He's able to separate, and that's all that really matters. And he's got strong hands at the point of catch. But the rookie class, again, time and time again, the defense is allowing a lot of rookies to play now, which is so awesome to see because we have expensive players. We have Nick Bosa, we have we have Hargrave, we have all of these linemen that we're paying a ton of money. And Fred Warner is one of the highest paid middle linebackers. Deommodore Lenoir now is going to be one of the highest paid corners. So in those other positions, we're going to need to see production. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to bring back Talanoa Hufanga. I think he's going to cost us too much. And he also is coming off multiple injuries. And the guy does have an injury history. But when he is healthy and when he is playing, he's got one of the highest football IQs. He is a turnover magnet. And it's hard to replicate that production. But Jair Brown and Mustafa are showing that they can kind of do pretty similar play given the opportunity. And what's really been great to see is they're playing. And I was telling my parents when I was watching it with them, like, these are the guys I was talking about from our draft class. Like, who's Mustafa? That's the guy that we drafted from Purdue. Who's Renardo Green? He covered number 1 receivers out of the SEC and locked him down out of Florida State. So these are players that if we give them enough in-game experience, we could fully evaluate if that was a good pick or not. And so far, they're living up to all the expectations that you would hope for a second-round corner and a third-round safety, right? I mean, we've had a lot of busts in the second and third round. These guys are the exact opposite.
A quick note about Ricky Pearsall, Thomas. It was funny that you mentioned his speed. And after Ricky Pearsall's performance, it was awesome seeing him get that touchdown. All the 49er fan base was just happy to see him produce what he did. But it had me thinking back in the draft process when we first drafted him. And when we picked up a first round wide receiver, the fan base was pretty split on the decision, questioning why we would do it. Is this signaling a future trade? We were just going all over the place with it. But now, fast forward, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because, as unfortunate as it is, Ayuk did end up getting a season-ending injury, and the offense, or just the Niners in general, are pretty much in must-win territory week after week, having to win games, and like we said, relying on rookies. So for him to come in as a first rounder, despite all the circumstances, getting shot and just being a rookie in general, overcoming all of that and being a contributor for us now heading into week 11, it's just amazing. And happy for the guy, happy for all of the rookies, but it's just crazy how everything turns out.
Yeah, Pearsall is a great story. I mean, there's a lot of great stories from this, honestly, in this draft class. Pooney is a great story, a transfer guy from a small school to a Power 5 school, and then turns out he's one of the best draft picks in the draft if he continues to play this way, regardless of position. And so it's a lot of good stories from this draft. Which one are you most excited to watch this week against Seattle?
Renardo Green. Renardo Green's going to have a tough game. I mean, he's tough matchups. You got Tyler Lockett, you got JSN, you got DK Metcalf. I think DK is coming back off an injury, and I think it's a true validation as a corner if you can lock down DK. Right? I mean, Demo might be going against him, but we've shown that we have confidence in Renardo Green. And what I saw in his college game film is he could guard the best of the best out of the SEC and lock him down. I don't think he had very many bad games against top talent in the SEC, and that's what people are drafting in the first and second round. While JSN was a top receiver out of Ohio State, DK Metcalf was a top receiver out of Ole Miss, and then you have Tyler Lockett, who's a perennial 1,000-yard receiver, right? I mean, he's given us fits for years because he's a deep threat. Well, if you can show this week that you can lock any of those three down without having us to lock, Demo on anyone, right? You can play your right side, you can play the left side. We don't have to worry about chasing DK or chasing one of these players. And JSN's starting to have a better season. I think he had a pretty breakout game 2 weeks ago. And Tyler Lockett, again, always a deep threat, always a potential issue for us. We've experienced Tyler Lockett have multiple 100-yard games, multiple touchdown games. I think this is going to be a true test for Renardo Green, and I'm more excited to see what he can do. And if he can fully solidify, will he probably get beat once or twice? Yes. But if we can limit the big plays, we're going to have a great chance at continuing to own Geno Smith and the Seahawks. For whatever reason, Geno looks like Jets Geno when the Niners play him. But when he goes against other teams, he has, 300, 400-yard games. But against us, he hasn't done that. So I think that it's all going to boil down to Renardo Green and his ability to lock down, whether it's DK, JSN, or Lockett.
Tommy, that's a great call for which rookie you would like to pay a close attention to this week. But my question, this is just an open question. I'm wondering, do you guys happen to know the status of Charvarius Ward? Like, is he going to be playing, or do we not quite know that yet?
We don't know it yet. I think they said he can take as long as he wants in a press conference. And I said it in our last
Which
pod,
makes sense. Makes sense.
I think it's at least 2 weeks.
Fair. Okay.
It'd be hard to get. I mean, I guess for me, it's more of is for a lot of people, football is going to be your escape, right? And I think 1 week was too soon. But I do think coming into a second week, maybe he's like, I need to get on the field. I need to be with my brothers. I need to be out there competing. Because I think he also, again, he's a part of this team. He's a huge part of this team. He wants to contribute. He wants to be a factor in because he knows that we need to win 5 out of the next 7, 8 games to even have a shot at playoffs. Because we're at 5 wins. We need to get to 10 or 11 bare minimum, depending on how the NFC West turns out. Right now, it looks like we need to get to 11 to have a playoff spot, because there's other wildcard teams in the NFC that are going to have a better record. And I think Ward doesn't want to not be a part of that run. He thinks that, like any other person on the Niners, they believe that they can go to the Super Bowl again. Well, the only way to do that is to make it into the playoffs. So yeah, my thought is he sits out this week.
I guess that just illustrates your point more of just how important the play of Renardo Green's going to be. If Charvarius Ward's not going to be there, and it's going to be Renardo Green's second official start, I guess, then that just raises the stakes for him even more. But like you, I'm super confident that he's going to step up to the plate. Someone that I'm interested in seeing, and he may not get a lot of playing time, but we are going to see him on special teams, is Jacob Cowing. We talked about him earlier. He had the muff punt, but he did make up for it earlier. So it's kind of one good, one bad. So he had the week to look at the tape, fix things, and let's see how he responds. Because imagine if we have a big play from Jacob Cowing, a big return, or if he gets some play at offense, like him contributing would be a sight for sore eyes for us as Niner fans. So that's someone who I'm going to be looking forward to seeing.
But yeah, those are both great names, guys that I would definitely be watching. Hoffa's a name that stands out for me. Pearsall's a name that stands out for me. But I also want to give love to a rookie that's kind of under the radar and has kind of flashed to me the past 3 or 4 games, and that's Evan Anderson, the undrafted rookie that we have at defensive tackle, right? We went out and traded for a guy from the Texans because we needed to bulk up that D-line. But this guy, every time I see him get reps, which is not a lot because he is a rotational piece, he's causing havoc in the backfield. On that one drive, the Buccaneers went down and we had like 3 penalties. One of them was on him for a hands to the face, but that's not a dumb penalty. That's just, it's a football play and his hand slips and it hits the guy in the face. But you know what he did? 2 plays later, he blew up a run play in the backfield, tackle for loss. So like he's a guy that's always in the backfield competing, and those penalties are going to happen when you play hard that he had, but he's a guy that's flashing. I would love to see him have a huge game this week and just solidify even more so the job that the Niners did with getting rookies that can make an impact this year. So Evan Anderson is not a big name guy, but that's a rookie that I've been really enjoying watching the past few weeks. And I think the more reps he gets, the more opportunity you're going to see his playmaking ability, because the kid's a big dude. I was just looking at his stats here. He is, I think, 6'3", 326 pounds. Like, so he's a big boy, and if he can play well, that's a huge run defense solidifier in the middle that you can have. So that's my guy I want to watch.
He kind of reminds me of DJ Jones in his prime, the
Yep.
way he produces. I was gonna say he's probably like 30 pounds heavier, 20 pounds heavier. Like DJ Jones, I think is 300. I'm not sure. Or when he was on the Niners, he might have been 300. But if we're talking about production out up the middle, right, we haven't seen that in a long time, right? We drafted Kinlaw and didn't get the production that we were hoping for. And then we get an undrafted guy like Evan Anderson that's doing kind of what we wanted Kinlaw to do in the middle. And he also is making up. I mean, losing Hargraves is tough, but Evan Anderson is playing great football, and I'd like to see him get more snaps, right? Because, again, he's a rotational piece. I don't know how many snaps he had. I didn't look at the snap count, but it wasn't enough, in my opinion. I mean, he's outplaying a lot of people. I mean, he's outplaying Jordan Elliott. He's outplaying Malik Collins. I mean, Malik Collins is okay. Jordan Elliott's okay, but Evan Anderson's actually showing that he could be a starter on this team next year. Because if we go into it next year with this current, or with who we have signed, Evan Anderson's probably going to be starting unless we draft someone in the early rounds. So yeah, great call, Mark. Great call. I didn't even think to go that deep into our rookie class, the undrafted guys. But again, that it's been a sweet spot for the Niners. It's good and bad, right? If we do so well in the 5th, 6th, 7th round and undrafted, and then we don't hit on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, it makes up for the draft class. This is the first class I've seen the Niners actually draft where you're getting a producer at every level. Ricky Pearsall, Renardo Green, Mustafa, Pooney, Cowing. Like, we have people that are contributing at every round. Even Bethune had a turnover. I mean, I think that guy also deserves a little bit more snaps, but I think it's going to take time for him to be trusted. I think the linebacking core is a little harder to penetrate, right? That's why D. Winters didn't even play at all as a rookie. Bethune, I think, has already probably seen more field time in a game, in a regular season game, than D. Winters did when he was a rookie. But thank you for listening this long. If you're still a fan of the Niners Station, we're going to continue to produce great content. So if you want to know when it's coming out, subscribe to our video, like our video. It'll show up more in your feed. And we're going to be here every single week telling you what's going on, trying to give you a different point of view than the mainstream media, because none of us are professional podcasters, but we are here to create a culture, to create a new perspective, something to listen to on the way to work, something to listen to while you're at work. Don't tell your boss. But please subscribe to our video channels on YouTube, like and subscribe this video and the rest of our content. And guys, I think we should close it out here. Bang, bang.
Niner gang.
Niner gang.